Hi, my name is Dr. Dani Gordon, and I'm a double board certified medical doctor, and I specialize in botanical medicine, integrative medicine, which is evidence-based natural medicine, and specifically in cannabis medicine and CBD. People always ask me if I'm a real doctor, and the answer is yes. I am a medical doctor. I'm conventionally trained. And before I went into medical school, even since I was a teenager, I was always really interested in natural health, evidence-based nutrition, and herbal medicine, as well as just general medicine. And when I got into medical school, I was just so excited. I was quite young. I started medical school when I was 21. And what I was so excited about was helping people learn how to be healthier, happier, hopefully live, better lives. And what I learned in medical school, although it was really, really important, was mostly about drug therapies and about downstream diseases. What I didn't learn was how to help people stay healthy, how to really get people healthy, and that upstream part of medicine where we couldn't really use drugs in the same way. And then really, I just got really interested in expanding my medical toolkit, so to speak. And after medical school, I started practicing medicine. And I felt that my toolkit as a Western medical doctor was not serving my patients in terms of their wellness needs, in terms of their mental health in many cases, and in terms of a lot of their chronic illness and chronic symptoms, like chronic pain, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, just stress, just general stress and burnout. In medical school, we were told nothing about botanical medicine, herbal medicine, nothing about cannabis, nothing about CBD, and certainly nothing about this thing that we have in our bodies called the endocannabinoid system, which is our own cannabis system that we make naturally. So that was my background, and I had to basically do a complete 180 to wrap my head around the science of herbal medicine, which is very different. It's very complex. It doesn't, play by the same rule books as drug medicine. You don't have this single agent that has a single target in the brain or the body, and you're just going to use it in the same dose for everybody. Herbal medicine is far more complex, but it's actually far more interesting in many ways too. So the first hurdle to overcome was I had to find mentors and I had to find training in this space. Because there was virtually nothing available to me in Canada, I had one mentor that I found who was a Western medical doctor in Canada. He was also trained in herbal medicine, so he started mentoring me. But also beyond that, I had to go abroad. And that's really when I went to the US and I found the body called the Integrative Medicine. At the time, they were at the American Academy of Integrative Medicine. And how I actually found them was I came home from my medical practice one day, and my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, he saw me come home, and I was quite really dejected, I guess you would say, because I felt that I needed to do more in my medical practice for my patients with all these chronic illnesses. And I'd taken so much extra training in herbal medicine, but I didn't have this full kind of specialty to offer people. And I felt like I was really alone because I was the only doctor in my city doing it. And he found this conference online, which was called, the Integrative Medicine Conference for Medical Doctors. And he showed it to me, and long story short, I ended up flying to San Diego and going to this medical conference. And there I met people like Andrew Wheel, like leaders in the fields of normal medicine, who also took extra training, and they were doing all this really interesting botanical medicine work. And I really felt like I found my tribe. So what I did is I ended up doing a fellowship program. I got my American board certification. Through this body, I started using these integrative medicine tools, herbal medicine, mind-body medicine in my practice alongside drugs with my patients in the government medical system. And usually, I was using them in chronic diseases and, mental health, anxiety, depression, chronic pain. And then it took me another few years before I added cannabis. And the reason for that wasn't because I didn't think cannabis had any value. It was more because it was quite politically controversial still at the time, even in Canada. This is, going back years ago. And it really took a combination of seeing my patients use it and get good results, and my own journey with having a bad accident and a chronic neuropathic pain in my hand, some failed surgeries, and I used actually topical cannabis, high CBD topical cannabis myself to help with my nerve pain, and that's what really shifted me over into adding it to my medical practice, and I built an entire practice around cannabis-based medicines, really using high CBD cannabis medicines. In the beginning, a lot of my colleagues thought it was a bit woo-woo, it was a bit out there. But over time, actually, they started referring me a lot of their patients that weren't getting better, a lot of their difficult cases. And oftentimes it was their own family members or friends or themselves. And they would just kind of call me up and say, I've tried everything kind of Western, nothing's really working. And I found over time, just doing the work and making it as evidence-based as I possibly could was the way to really get my colleagues on board. The other challenge I faced when I added cannabis as a medicine in my practice was there was no training programs at the time. People didn't even know the difference, and even doctors, between CBD and THC. It was just cannabis. So even though we could prescribe it legally in Canada since 2001, we had no idea what we were doing. And again, I had to go to the States, took a training course, and then I just started partnering with my patients. And I used my herbal medicine background, my fellowship in herbal medicine, to inform me about cannabis too. And that's really kind of how I've made CBD and cannabis medicine work in my own practice. And that's really how I train other physicians, other healthcare practitioners, allied health people, wellness people, how to use these things. So I think the growth of this industry is going to be just astronomical in the next decade. I think we're going to see CBD not only playing a role in health, in disease, but I think a larger role in wellness, potentially even in our lifestyles. I think the generation that we know as millennials are moving away from alcohol as a social lubricant, and they're moving towards something that they can maybe use in a similar way, but it's not going to have the same downsides as alcohol does for many, many people. Until the 1990s, it was illegal to even cultivate hemp without any THC. So hemp that we use to make fiber, or hemp that we use to make, hemp CBD oils that we can see on the shelves now in the UK, that was illegal. So it was illegal to grow it, it was illegal to study it as a plant for so many decades. So because of that, we are playing catch up. But the good news is there's been an exponential rise in the number of research studies for both medical cannabis that contains THC and also for CBD by itself. In my practice in Canada, I have treated thousands of patients with cannabis medicines. A large majority of those are patients who have chronic pain, and a lot of them are reliant on high doses of opioids. But the bad news is that they don't really work that well over time, these opioid medications, and they have more side effects the longer you're on them. And I've had an extremely high success rate of getting people completely off of these high-dose opioids after being hooked on them for years and years because they had no other choice, and transitioning them on to high CBD, usually low THC cannabis with some exceptions. It's such a high rate of success that actually the referral rates, for just this alone just started to go up and up and up. And I think you're seeing this across Canada now. It's now well recognized, and there's been quite a few good, well-done research studies that are showing that where cannabis medicine is being prescribed, the opioid rates are falling dramatically. So I think as we see this become a huge problem culturally as a society, people have more and more chronic pain. We're an aging population. Even with athletes, they have lots of pain all the time. This can be a lower risk option for them, with, in most cases, what I've seen, very little, if any, side effects. Cannabis is really safe in overdose even. So there's no receptors in the brainstem for cannabinoids. That means that someone overdoses on a cannabis product, definitely anything with CBD is very, very safe, but even THC, they won't die. Nothing fatal is going to happen to them. Then you look at opioids, and even a slight accidental misdosage can lead to depressed respiration, so stopping breathing, and actually a fatal overdose. So opioids are fatal in overdose. Cannabinoids are not. They're very, very safe. They have a great safety record. And I think this is really a message we have to get out to doctors, because it's a critical message when we're talking about what else can we offer patients who are reliant on opioids for these chronic pain conditions. So here in the UK, I've really been focused on research and education, primarily education for the public, for doctors, for wellness professionals, because I think that's where we can make the most impact. We really have to educate people. So I've trained the first doctors in the UK about medical cannabis. I've also been working with a number of different non-medical lay people who are in the wellness space who really want to help their clients learn more about CBD. So I was invited to take part in the expo, and I had a wonderful experience. I found it was very well organized, first of all. The quality of presentations, the quality of exhibitions, I found were quite high. In a market that is, CBD is a market that's quite unregulated. So I think people are really looking to, an event where they can come and get trustworthy information and where they can know the vendors are of good quality. So I found that for me, it was a very positive experience. I had a great audience for the talk and lots of great questions, people coming from industry and from the health and wellness sector, some physicians, researchers, a lot of different types of people coming together to learn about CBD and about the cannabis plant in general. For me, it was a very positive experience. So whether you're, someone who's just curious about CBD, about using it for stress, and you just want to come check it out and get some educational material, or you might want to be interested in the CBD business, or you're in the health sector and maybe people ask you about CBD and you're a nurse or you're a GP, there's going to be something at the expo for you to help you, to educate you, to just kind of pique your curiosity in a really non-threatening, really open environment. So I hope to be able to share that with more people in September.